Okay, so we're going to simplify a quotient with complex numbers. So a quotient will be a fraction. This does kind of bring up the idea of division, so you could think that we're moving on to that operation with our complex numbers there now. But if you have just a single fraction, here's a quotient, 10 over 2 minus I. In math, we cannot have any imaginary parts in the denominator of a fraction. That's just one of those things we can't do. So to fix that, we are going to multiply our denominator by its conjugate. I'm going to throw parentheses around the 2 minus I. The conjugate, and that's the same thing as complex conjugate. Sometimes we don't say the word complex. So 2 minus I, multiply it by its conjugate. The real part stays the same, 2. And then the imaginary part has opposite signs. So instead of minus I, we're going to add I. So here we are multiplying our complex conjugates together. Now if I multiply the denominator by a 2 plus I have to do the same thing to the numerator, 2 plus I. And now we're just going to simplify this. Remember, when you multiply complex conjugates together, it results in a real number. So I know that I will no longer have any imaginary parts down here. But let's go ahead and multiply this out and see where this leads. In the numerator, we're just distributing. So 10 times 2 gives us 20. 10 times I is a positive 10I. Over in the denominator, we are going to multiply this out. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times a positive I is plus 2I. Negative I times 2 is a negative 2I. And negative I times a positive I is a negative I squared. Okay, so it's the denominator where we can clean this up. Maybe I'll just say, let's focus on the denominator, and then we'll put our answer off to the right. We have our 4, but then we have that plus 2I minus 2I. The plus 2I minus 2I do cancel each other out, and then we just have minus I squared. Now, if we remember from a previous video, we defined I squared to equal negative 1. So I'm going to replace the I squared with a negative 1. So it's 4 minus negative 1. And that minus the negative, 4 minus negative 1, results in just a 5. So we multiplied complex conjugates together, and in the end we end up with just a real number. So our denominator is 5. Our numerator is 20 plus 10I. And it wants us to write our answer in the form A plus BI. So we are going to simplify one more step. We're going to separate out our fraction. Both of these terms get divided by 5. So we're going to do 20 divided by 5 and 10I divided by 5. What that looks like is we just separate out our fraction. 20 over 5 plus 10I over 5, and then we see if either of these fractions or both will simplify. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 10I divided by 5 is 2I, and now we have our simplified answer in the form A plus BI.